First one is the brachiocephalic, comes out of the heart, goes here, and then divides into the right subclavian, which is heading to my arm, and the other branch is the right common carotid that goes up the right side of my neck. The second one is the left common carotid. It comes out here, goes straight up the left side of my neck. And then the third branch is the left subclavian that is coming out of here, going to my left arm. In other mammals, they only have, again, two branches. They have a right brachiocephalic and a left brachiocephalic. Okay? They don't have the three. This is the superior vena cava going into the right atrium. So I'm just going to put that down so it doesn't fall. This is the auricle of the right atrium. So this is the right auricle. This is the left auricle. If this wasn't a plastic model, you'd be able to bend this up. Okay, it's actually kind of flexible, a little like your ear is the auricle. Okay. This is a groove that goes down the front of the heart that separates the left ventricle from the right ventricle. This is the anterior interventricular sulcus. In the back,
the yellow part,
where the yellow groove is, and there's fat. Now, generally in a live heart, you wouldn't see the arteries. The arteries are buried in this level of fat. In the back, this is the dividing point between the left ventricle and the right ventricle. So this is a groove that is the posterior interventricular sulcus. Okay. Then we have a groove that starts on the right side of the pulmonary trunk. It goes around the back, goes underneath the inferior vena cava, goes all the ways around the heart, and stops at the left side of the pulmonary trunk. And this separates the atriums above from the ventricles below. It's the coronary sulcus. Okay. All right, so now on the surface of the heart, we have this artery coming out the right side of the coronary sulcus. This is the right coronary artery. Okay. When we get to the turning point between the front of the heart and the back of the heart, we give off one branch here, which is the marginal artery or the marginal branch, okay, of the right coronary artery. Okay. Now that feeds the real center of the right ventricle, so it really is fairly important. Now, as a rule of thumb, wherever the artery is what it's feeding. Okay, so this marginal artery is feeding this part of the right ventricle. Then the right coronary artery goes around the back, gives off one last branch, which is this, which is the posterior interventricular artery. And again, clinically, the cardiologists call this the posterior descending. The right coronary artery goes on and will join the left coronary artery coming from the other side. The left coronary artery really is very short. It ends about here. It's only about a quarter of an inch long. It ends in two branches, one going down the front of the heart between the left and right ventricles. This is the anterior interventricular. So the anterior interventricular is from the left coronary artery. The posterior interventricular is from the right. And this was called the posterior descending. This is called the anterior. The other branch goes around the back of the heart, and this model gets a little weird in that it doesn't really do it well. It should really run all the ways around. This is the circumflex. Okay, I think that model has a better circumflex. On the back of the heart, there is a branch off of the circumflex that is here, and this is a little bit tough. This is the posterior ventricle. And that is a little bit like the marginal artery in that it's dead center in the middle of the left ventricle. Okay, so that, give me that other one. That other one is open. I can take this one. Okay, so if we take off the front of the heart, this is the interior of the heart. The one thing on the models as well as on the sheep's hearts you have to notice all the time is if I say, what valve is this? Okay, this would be the bicuspid valve, but you can't always count all the cuspids. This is the tricuspid. So what you compare is the thickness of the ventricle on this side versus the thickness of the ventricle on this side. The left ventricle is much thicker, so therefore this is the left side of the heart, and this is the bicuspid, or mitral. This is the tricuspid going into the right coronary artery, right ventricle. Okay. This is the right atrium, this is the left atrium. And most of the left atrium is really behind the right atrium. So it's really bigger than it was. The blood comes into the right ventricle, then is pumped out through this valve, which is the pulmonary semilunar valve. And then it goes to the lungs. It comes back by these veins into the left atrium, and these are the pulmonary veins. They go into the left atrium, then through the bicuspid or mitral valve into the left ventricle, and then is shot out through the back upper part of the left ventricle into the aortic semilunar valve, which you can see from the top. This is the interventricular septum. It's very thick further down, and it's as thick as the left ventricle wall because it's actually part of the left ventricle. It does thin out near the top as we're getting close to the atrium. And an infant that is born with a hole between his ventricles, that hole is going to be up here. Okay, what else? Give me that side? No, the. This irregular surface on the inside of the ventricles is, I believe, the last term, and that's the trabeculae corneae. Okay, and we'll see that in the sheep's heart. These would be the rope-like structures, which we will call the chordae tendineae, that are used to control the tricuspid and bicuspid valve. Where the chordae tendineae inserts into the ventricle is called the papillary muscle. So I have 3 papillary muscles on the right because I have 3 cuspids. I have 2 bigger papillary muscles on the left because this is the bicuspid. It's actually easier to control the bicuspid than the tricuspid. Okay, for the veins, go back to this model, which is identical to that one. We have this vein here. It starts at the apex, goes up the anterior interventricular artery, follows next to the circumflex, and goes into this very wide structure, which is called the coronary sinus. Now on a test, if I ask about this, I'll say this venous structure. It's not actually a vein, but it's just a sac. So that's a great cardiac vein. This is the middle cardiac vein. It comes up and goes right into the coronary sulcus. And both the middle and the great going into the coronary sulcus will empty their blood into the right atrium, right here. There's also a depression, which is not on the test, but this depression is a hole during fetal life between the right atrium and the left atrium, and that's got to close after birth. All right, and that's pretty much it. Okay, these models are really nice. And they're kind of plastic, so if you drop them, they don't break. That's like ceramics. If you drop that, it shatters. But you should compare, if you want, you all got smartphones. If you want to take pictures of these guys, that's great, because these are the models that will be on the heart. Well, these two